Okay, welcome to episode 10 of Audio Discord podcast. Today we have a very special guest with me. Well, I say special because this man is very hard to book. Actually, I'm doing a one-on-one with my last co-host, Ant-Man. How are you
Hey
doing today,
Rush.
man? Ant-Man?
Hey Rush, how are you?
Good. So I think today we're just gonna talk, probably like just a friendly chat, going through his website, um, how the progression of his website, maybe touch up on how he got started with his whole IEM reviewing hobby, and just how maybe the rebranding and maybe some spicy hot takes in the end. Maybe I don't know. So why don't we start on like the website, which is you always had, right?
Yep.
And
Yeah. How do you want me to start?
I don't
Uh,
know, like, what did you when was the audio review? Like, what did you make that website? Because you were always like a programmer or not, well, not a programmer,
no, I'm not a programmer. I'm a materials engineer.
right?
uh,
But like you have some programming background,
yeah, a little bit. So
yeah.
I guess the I started actually designing websites way back when I was probably in high school, maybe back in
Oh,
the
just a hobby, right?
yeah back in the late '90s. Started off with like
Jesus.
front page, Microsoft front page for those people who are old enough to even remember what that is.
I do not.
It's like a mix of Word and PowerPoint, kind of really
Okay.
poorly put together to make websites back in the AOL days. Um,
Okay.
but yes, I started making some websites back then, and then I guess in college, this is kind of off topic slightly, but it makes sense once I get to the end of it. In college, I started really getting into music scene, and I went to a lot of shows and bought a lot of CDs, like hundreds of CDs, and so I started. Me and my friends started reviewing them. We created a website called brokenspindle.net, and it later became, mostly because I forgot to renew the domain name, it later became writtendiscourse.com. So that kind of ties into the future. But back then we wrote music reviews. We ended up getting to interview some artists, a lot of bands, got free shows to go backstage and meet some of these people. Got a lot of CDs for free to try out. So back then I was already kind of doing this, like getting samples and reviewing things. But
Okay.
that's like kind of died once we graduated from college and started our real lives. But we did have like six or eight people writing reviews on that site for a while. And then I guess the audio portion kind of came much later. That started, I think, in 2017 or 2016, maybe, I forget. I started just making a blog and writing some random stuff in it. And one day I wrote a review on the famous Tin Hi-Fi T2, which I actually ended up posting on Reddit first. And I think a few companies that carried tin audio products, like Linsel, right when I think she started her company, they reached out to me and said, "Hey, we liked your writing style. Do you want to review some other stuff that we carry?" So I said yes, and mostly as a hobby because I don't have advertisements and I don't make any money on this. But yeah, it started off there and it kind of blew up in the last couple of years.
I feel like um a lot of people have that same origin story, which is I'm not gonna say I agree with it. Uh, as if like again like if time comes, we have that tri-fi thing. I'm gonna have my yeah, but like I think that's how, and it started with chi-fi, which is kind of how most people start, unless you're like most people in the West, I guess. Let me change that because we really don't have any access to a lot of stuff. So like you and a lot of people depend on distributors to provide them with demo units. So a lot of tri-fi companies or distributors are very willing to send those out because the way that they're cheap and they did it like it's the marketing cost, right? Yeah, but you also review some other stuff that you buy yourself, right, on the
Yep.
website, which is the more interesting reviews, if you ask me. But more about the website and that's been Android.net because I think that's how most people knew your website, right? That's been Android.net for a very long time.
Yeah, it was Android.net. Actually, Android.net has gone through multiple different versions. I started that, I think, in the kind of beginning of like 2010 or 2012 or something like that, and it was just mostly a personal blog. And then I started making modifications to some video games, some sport, like so.
Your football.
Yeah, football and college basketball and a bunch of games that they're no longer being made. So I started making some mods to it, like updating rosters to make it current day and changing stuff like uniforms and whatnot. And so that site became kind of a storing house for all my files that I created. And then it became some sort of mishmash between audio and game development. And also I made a game on Android too, which has a lot of I guess gamers playing it, and so it became a really weird mishmash of stuff. So I ended up having to separate the two sites out from Android.net and Android.dev, which is more the gaming side.
Okay. And you're still doing that gaming side of things, or is that been like put on hold?
It's
for the time being.
It's kind of when I have time. Right now I'm pretty busy at work, and also,
busy man. So I have heard.
Yeah, pretty busy at work, and avoiding you, and but and also focusing more on audio hobby than the gaming hobby.
Yeah. Let's go back to maybe and you said you now we never really talk before all the podcast stuff. But funny enough, I always give you some shit. We actually have some kind of fatal encounter on Reddit. Do you remember when I first got my Gemini, I posted on Reddit, and I was being a troll, of course.
Of course you were.
As I always do on Reddit, because it's it's nothing better to do. You commented, and we had an exchange, which was kind of because back in the day you have your unique melody, you still have it, your what, MU1, what is that called, right?
Yeah, I'll never be able to sell it, so
yeah, that cursed it planar custom open bag, whatever you want to call that, garbage. But was that before you start? Did you have a site back then? Because I feel like that's like, I think you do, right? That was like a while ago.
That was probably right when I started the audio site, maybe.
Okay.
Or at least.
But like, I never really, I never really knew you as a reviewer, which is until shit. Oh, actually, until when? Until you bought the best IEM in the world. Then I was like, oh, this guy writes reviews, and then I went on your site, and it's like a review site, and it, like, again, I don't really go read it or anything, but I do, for whatever reason, I do read people's VX review. I don't know why, but I was like, oh, this guy's actually pretty good and agreeable, and I don't say that a lot to other people.
You agree with somebody?
Yeah, which is weird, right? And because
really
I am known for giving people a lot of shit for their VX impression on the QTC thread. So I went and read a review, and I was like, oh, this guy's pretty good. And I always have a pretty good opinion of you in terms of a North American audio reviewer, I guess.
Yeah, it's hard being a North American IEM reviewer, that's for sure.
Yeah, and a lot of stuff that you got are distributor, and a lot of the stuff that you bought, right? And I think, how do you balance like I feel like the units that you get provided are like you know that you write. I feel like you're a lot harsher on the stuff that you own. Is it just from the amount of time that you had them, or what?
Um, no, not necessarily. I think some things I buy, I it's blind buying, for example. But I think some of the stuff I buy knowing that it may have problems, but I'm more interested in just curiosity's sake, I guess. Like the ME1, the unique melody. Um, at the time when I bought it, it was a novelty. Plain there was you had a choice of the Odyssey I signed, which I owned, and the ME1, which had just came out right afterwards, and it had more of a, I guess, more of a traditional IEM look in a way, even though it wasn't really a traditional IEM at all. But planar headphones were my thing. I owned a whole bunch of Hi-Fi Man and Fostex and whatnot headphones, and so planar was a technology I really liked. And for curiosity's sake, I bought that, even though I probably expected it to sound terrible, just like the iSign sounds terrible about the DSP. And it turns out it sounds pretty terrible. But so in that sense, yeah, I'm a little harsh on some things I buy, but that's mostly because I'm trying out some new technology or whatnot. But at the same time, I think I try to be pretty objective in being subjective, if that makes sense. So I try to give pros and cons of everything as best I can. I mean, some things may not have that many pros, and some things may not have that many cons. So I try at least balance it out by bringing up potential flaws, or at least maybe use cases where someone may not like something.
Right. But I feel like for the demo unit that you were provided, I feel like you are not. I'm not gonna say pressured, but you feel somewhat obligated to get the review out. Within a reasonable time frame. I want to say I don't know how much they give you or anything like
Yeah,
that.
that's true.
But
Yeah.
Right.
It depends
So
on
you can't really get deep into it, right?
Yeah, there's some cases. It depends on the situation. A lot of
Right.
there's different categories. A lot of the budget chi-fi stuff that I get from Hi-Fi Go or Linsol or the actual Chinese companies themselves. Those most of the time, I want to say 90, 95 or maybe even 100% of the time, those are review samples that they send to me and I keep. And the only obligation I have is to write a review about it. So I know in some cases some people don't write a review, but I do get more time on those. If I don't like it that much, right off the bat, I may put out quick impressions more so than detailed long review like I do on some other things. And then if there's a loaner tour, most of the time you get 1 week, at best 2 weeks to keep the unit. So there is a much more expedient process that has to happen. And luckily, most of the time at work, I have the ability to listen to music at work, so I get to at least get in a few hours a day at work. And right now with the pandemic, I get a lot more time to just listen to music at home. So I do get to try to maximize as best I can when I get review tour units. I'm actually getting the unique melody mess this week or end of this week or so, and I think I'll get
my god.
Yeah, I think I'll get a week and a half maybe with it. So I mean,
Okay,
that's
so
kind of
it's
the
a
timeline.
tour thing. Okay,
Yeah.
that's nice. I mean, yeah, try. But yeah, I think it's hard to. I mean, yeah, the loaner units that they give you for you to keep, they're usually $100 or something, and I honestly don't think it's it's worth. I don't bother with it. I don't know how you do it. You have to listen. You're forced to listen to it for a week or so, and then you have to write a review on this mediocre
Well, I mean, for loaner tours, I typically I typically sign up for it. So I typically only sign up for loaner tours on things that I actually am interested in.
Are interested, right? And but I'm saying the review sample that you were provided. They're
Oh
usually
yeah, those just
pretty cheap.
those sometimes come in without even me knowing they're coming in. They just show up at my door.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, and it's kind of, I don't know, man. I can't be bothered with that. I mean, it's not like they're sending you Tia Fortes or something like that. You know, shout out to Twister.
Yeah, I get those sometimes, but I get those
yet.
sometimes, but I have to return them.
Ah, man.
I know.
You know, bummer. Like, right? I wish I would shout out a low. You know, I would shout out a low if I get Tia Forte for free. Garbage I am, by the way. Yeah. And I think I feel like people have to read your review, like read between the line with your review, which is one of the other problem that I have with you. Um, I feel like you're a hybrid between Crin and that Japanese English teacher that listens to Tupac at DSD. um, which is which I would also say they're on the opposite end of the spectrum. Funny enough that you see that reviewer, who I will not name, is more closer to what Crin is now, because he maybe not so bad boy after all. But what I'm saying is that I feel like you do a lot of music impressions,
Mm-hmm.
like how they sound with music,
Mm-hmm.
which is that's closer to him. And you also have a measuring rig that you do, which is very consistent within your own bunch of measurements, and it's somewhat comparable to his, right? So that's what you're similar to Chris. So like you're like part technical and part what I want to use the way, or whimsical, or just like you review the music and you review the IEM, which is nice, I guess, in a way.
Yeah, I mean, so that kind of goes to two parts of me. Like I said before, I love music. I go to a lot of shows, and I used to review audio or albums and whatnot. So at the end of the day, you buy the headphones to listen to music. So
Really?
music, well, or you can listen to YouTube, I guess, or watch videos with it. But I buy my headphones mostly to listen to Audio Discourse podcasts. But
thanks, thank you.
Yeah, I love your voice.
Thank you.
But at the end of the day, you're buying it to listen to music. So music in my opinion, needs to be talked about. I don't necessarily always talk about music in my reviews. They typically, I'll probably mention a little bit here and there, but only in my longer reviews, which are typically, things I care about more, where I go more in depth with music, like the VX review, for example, or the edition reviews. But that, and then there's the whole what I do for my career and my academic life. I'm an engineer, so the science part of it, the objective side of it, is also very important to me. So buying multiple measuring rigs to play with is something I really enjoy. I mean, this morning I was playing around with a Bluetooth speaker and a bunch of different measuring mics with it, trying to get this Bluetooth speaker to sound as neutral as possible, for example. But
I feel like that engineering side of your brain that I do not get.
Well, yeah. So I think mixing both of those is kind of how I approach it, mostly because that's how I like to approach, like how I enjoy reading reviews myself, and just having my background in both science and also enjoying enjoying music. I think those two come together in this hobby specifically very well.
Right. Frankly, I don't read the music side, the portion of your review, because we listen to very different music.
Yeah, that is a problem. I mean, I admit that in a lot of reviews that I read that go on and on and on about different music, I skip a lot of that too, and that's because
Right.
I have no idea what songs they're listening to because I never heard of these bands or this song, and without that reference point, it doesn't necessarily help me at all.
But you do love Tupac,
I do like
so
Tupac.
you must love his reviews, right?
I do like Tupac. He's not my favorite rapper, but
No? Wow.
I like the Roots, man.
Nice.
Black Dot.
Okay. Go ahead. Keep going.
I forgot what I was saying.
Sorry.
Oh yeah, so yeah, I mean, when I read reviews, I sometimes gloss over the music portion of it too, just because I don't necessarily relate to it. But if it comes to like a reviewer where I know their background and we have similar music tastes, like for example, Resolve and I have pretty similar music and headphone tastes, so that's someone I'll probably read a little bit more in depth in, versus someone else who listens to stuff that I don't really care about.
Okay. Oh yeah, which is fair. I think it does take a while to like get used to the writing style of a reviewer, and and the other thing is that that I don't like about you, which is probably what this podcast would be about. Me telling you why that I don't like your reviews. I feel like you have a hard time writing like negative reviews. And people have to read between the lines. That's what I mean. Like, and because
Really? Have you not read my some of my reviews where I gotten yelled at from people on Head5 for being too critical?
well, I mean, people on Head5 are just people on Head5. I'm not even gonna like mention it because unless you're raving about their IEM, then you're just shitting on it, right? So, I mean, like you gave me your QDC Uranus for you blind bought it, which is hilarious in hindsight. And you gave it to me for 2 weeks, and I read your review before I got it, and I listened to it, and I'm like, this guy's really soft.
I was probably a little soft on that one. I'll admit that one.
A little? Oh man, that IEM is like just like a living turd. That QDC, like if I ate my VX and I poop it out, that's what that would sound like.
See, I don't think it's that bad.
Jesus.
And I say that mostly because I can see why some people would like it. It's very warm. It's not the greatest detailed IEM, but it's one of those IEMs that I didn't like it at all when I first listened to it. But the mental burn-in.
You just have to lie to yourself, right? Just like it's okay, it's not that bad.
Yeah, it took a while. So to me, this is not exactly the best comparison, but it kind of, in tonality wise, it's warm, it's laid back, and to me it's like, I don't want to make this comparison too much, but so like the ZMF Verite, one of the headphones I own, when you first listen to it, it sounds wrong. It's heavily colored.
Because it does. Because it
yeah,
does.
I mean it does sound wrong. It's heavily colored. It doesn't sound neutrally correct. It's warm. It's got laid back treble. It's probably got a pretty big dip in the lower treble. So and maybe even at least in the Verite, the upper mid range. It doesn't sound right, but you start listening to it and you start to like it with certain music, and only certain music. And I feel like the Uranus is doesn't have the technical ability of the Verite, not even close. But for certain music, it doesn't sound too bad. I sold it pretty quickly after I got it back from you, like within a few days. But
I can't believe you sold it. Like I can't believe somebody actually want to buy that garbage.
It's not
sorry for
that. I did write in there. I think I wrote in my review, or maybe on Reddit, that if you were an audiophile type person, like people in this hobby, you probably aren't gonna enjoy it. But if you were just like someone who just wants to buy something and listen to, it's not that bad. it fits really well. I mean, there's a whole comfort, and I think it looks like it's probably one of the best looking IEMs, I think, around on the market, no matter the price. Just mostly because I like purple, and it's purple, and it's got kind of it actually looks a lot like I made my Viento very similar to how it looks. But
no, this is like if you can just cut the last 10 minutes out. This is literally what brain burn. Like you went through the 5 stage of blind buying, and you just justify yourself why this is okay.
I wouldn't say
Yes,
I would recommend it for most people.
That IEM is horrible. First of all, it's not, it's a hybrid but not a hybrid. It's a QDC but not a, which is again probably the same. It's a hybrid with bass and treble roll off.
Yeah, I mean, I did write. Here's my review. I thought it was too bassy and a little muddy. And if you let's see, I don't know if I'd recommend this at its asking price, but I do like. I do really enjoy the aesthetics, the fit, and the accessory package. It's just missing top-notch sound, and it's underwhelming at its price. So I mean, it wasn't that positive, but I agree. I wasn't like super critical, harsh on it.
Right, but I mean, if I were to say, I would just go like QDC Uranus, and I will put like 2 words under that review: dumpster fire. That's literally what I would put. that would be the end of that review, because like it's that bad. I am like within the first 4 or 5 hours of me listening to that thing.
Yeah,
I am convinced. Granted, I really hate the V3, and you haven't heard it. That thing sounds really wrong. I was convinced that this is the worst. This is now the worst QDC in its lineup. I was like, wow, that is really bad.
Yeah, I liked it for like rock music, which I do listen to a lot. That extra warmer sound.
We're over this line. So
All right,
if people read your review, and if you don't like, and when you don't talk about the sound all that much, which is what your Uranus review is, which is what when you review something that's like less than good, let's put it that way. Without burning too many bridges. When you review things that's less than good, you tend to focus on, maybe the packaging, maybe the ergonomics, maybe the looks a bit more.
Sure.
So what I'm saying is, what you don't talk about sometimes is just as important as what you do talk about. Which I feel like, what a newcomer might not be able to catch. It's like, oh, he did bad about it. Must be all right. Well, no, right? Not the case. And why don't we talk about maybe the site's rebranding, because it used to be Android.net.
Yep.
Now is something else. Because why were you looking for other reviewers in the first place?
I wasn't really.
Oh, you wasn't? So he approached you.
Are you talking about
Carob, yeah.
Carob, yeah. FC Construct. Yeah. So, well, I mean, at some point, this kind of goes back to my the first question you asked about how the site began, and I talked about the music reviews back in the 2000s. So it started off with just me, and then it became me and my best friend, and then it became more people. And it's mostly because I'm not trying to like monopolize something or whatever. I enjoy being in the community and meeting people like you and Carob and others. And so
did you just put my name and his in the same sentence?
What's that?
I take offense to that.
Come on, man. But at some point I feel like I like hearing other people's opinions, not just mine. And he was looking for a place to post his reviews besides just Reddit and Headfi, and it just worked out that I can easily just add an extra person to my site, and that happened. And then I'd always talked about potentially making the site bigger to add more people who I thought, who I enjoyed reading their reviews if they were actually interested. Because there are a lot of people who I think in the community who have really, really good opinions and can write really well, or at least convey their opinions really well, like like Taranku and Ken, but they don't necessarily have a place to put it. So opening it up and allows people who I guess I trust their opinions in some way to kind of post it on a site, and then it also I get to read it, so it's a bonus. And then I renamed it Audio Discourse, mostly because my like I said earlier, my original music review site was called Written Discourse, and discourse just means a conversation, or potentially conversation with a little bit of discussion or argument, and which is kind of what I feel like this hobby is. It's a lot of conversating, and people have different opinions on things, but everyone has hopefully an equal opportunity to convey their own opinions and put it out there.
That's a very democratic approach to your.
Yeah, vote for me 2020.
Well, no, I think it's nice to have other people on the site that you like, and I don't know. I feel like what's the future of it? I don't know, man. Like this is like we started a podcast out of nowhere
because we were bored.
Because we were bored. Because everybody's locked down, in their house. So I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Nobody knows?
Yeah, nobody knows. I mean, yeah. I just like to keep it at least an honest site that is free from, the other pressures and whatnot.
Pressures and whatnot?
Yeah, like the shillings and whatnot that people get accused of in the community. But,
Oh, I thought we showed Sony here because they pay me the big bucks to.
Yeah, besides Sony and QDC, of course.
Right, exactly. Right, we have our sponsors. Not really. Yeah, and I think it's a a lot of people have their own review sites, of course, and it's nice to have something that you maybe free from the big forums. So you're not really restricted to their rules, which is kind of the nice part. And I don't know, this is something that everybody just do for fun, and everybody just dick around, I guess.
Yeah, I mean it's all for fun. It's a hobby.
Yeah.
I don't like I said, we don't make money on this, so it's more just us.
I mean not that it really.
Yeah.
Not that however much money if we make it's really not.
It would be chump change.
Yeah, I wouldn't use chunk change. Okay, so I know you touch up on this, which I maybe more of a topical thing about you being a audio reviewer in North America, and something that I do like to talk to you about because you are one and I'm not a reviewer, and I feel like it's a struggle, man. You can't really review things that you want, right? And you are very lucky. I feel like you are one of the luckiest one, without being associated. Obviously, not to shame headphone.com, not to shame the headphone show, because they're related to headphone.com, right? So I would assume, again, it will be very easy for Resolve to get the new things that headphone.com carries, right? Although you are involved with the headphone.com community.
Yep.
You don't really get them as quickly as Resolve would do. So you really do have to wait in line. But usually you are the second or third person in line, which is nice, right? Yeah. But for a lot of the smaller, well, not to say smaller, other reviewers in NA, getting demo units is something that's hard to do, right?
Yep.
Do you talk to other reviewers about that kind of things? About like just, the lack of demo?
Most of the other reviewers in the in North America that I talk to, at least online, often,
Right.
are more into headphones than IEMs, and that that has probably a lot to do with availability and maybe also just what people like in North America, and that's probably why IEMs aren't so popular here. But those are a little bit more available because there are a lot more stores that carry over-ear headphones and.
Yeah, but they're all just like the generic Sennheiser, but not even like the good ones.
Well, even like the specialty stores that are audio centric or speaker centric, they mostly carry over ears. They don't carry a whole lot of IEMs. And during like store demos out, I've never seen IEMs out in the store. I think there's only a couple stores in New York that actually have IEMs available for people to demo actually in store. But what was I trying to say?
I mean, just like online, like it's hard to get things even online.
It's hard,
but there are ways.
There are ways, yeah. I think to get like a company to send you stuff, you kind of have to have a. It seems like you have to have some sort of established. I don't know. I guess established website or some sort of credential, like Twister or Headphonics and Headphonia. They've been around for a long time and they have a big following of people and they get a lot of website traffic. So those guys can get reviews review units straight from the manufacturer. Someone who's small time like me, you kind of have to rely on kind of building your brand up. But it does help that like headphones.com has been awesome. They have a really nice community that loans out, or at least they had a loaner program. We're kind of in the work talking about how to restructure it right now. And those guys are relatively local to me. So they're up in Vancouver and I'm in Seattle. So we've actually met a couple times. So that also helps build that relationship. So they've sent me. Right now they do send Resolve typically most of the IEMs or headphones first, but in the IEM world, sometimes they send me stuff first too. So it does help. And I also do write on their website, so that does help a little bit too, to get some stuff from them. But as far as like other IEMs and stuff, the easiest way is to kind of either go to headphone meets and find people who have stuff to demo, or look for like a loaner tour that like HeadFi always sponsors, or at least companies sponsor or post on HeadFi, or there are a couple stores that I know of that will let people borrow stuff for like a down payment. But yeah, it's not easy.
No, I feel like there's always some kind of barrier to entry when it comes to being able to get IEM demos sent to you as a North American reviewer. Again, it's not impossible, but as you said, like you are very involved with the headphone.com community. So they're like, and you met them in real life, so they're very comfortable sending you stuff, right?
Yep.
As opposed to somebody who just like, doesn't really have any like previously established relationship, nor do they have a website. It's kind of hard. I mean, they could sign up for a HeadFi, review tour or something like that, but at that time when you get it like 6 months down the line, it's kind of pointless to write an IEM review for something that's that old. I don't know, maybe. But there are ways to demo. If you don't want to review, you just want to try stuff before you buy. There are ways to get it in North America.
Yeah.
I mean, how are they restructuring that loaner program in headphones.com right now, or what's the deal there? I was kind of gonna give them a shout out there, but you're saying they're putting that on hold.
I mean, some of it has to do. They were actually on a different YouTube channel doing a live stream a couple days ago, and they kind of talked about it. So I think it's the hobbyist Tyler's live stream.
Tyler's podcast.
Yeah, they were talking about. They were talking, because of COVID, There's a lot of issues setting
Right,
stuff
right,
at
right.
home.
Yeah, it's kind of
And they only have one person working in their warehouse, and they don't want to risk his safety by doing stuff that aren't sales related.
yeah.
And
That's super fair.
yeah, and then they also are. I think they've seen like a significant increase in sales in last month, so they're kind of understaffed right now. So
Yeah.
giving away loaners that they actually are paying for most of it out of their own pocket isn't like super high priority right now.
Right. Obviously,
Yeah.
which is fine. I mean, but after all this is over, I'm sure headphones.com is gonna,
Yeah,
give out a loan.
yeah, they're talking. It sounds like they're talking about. So right now, how they do it is you have to be a community member for a while and write, show that you can write a review, and then they'll kind of send it out to you on first come first serve basis for a limited time.
Right.
I think in the future, what they want to do is try to have the community kind of run the loaner program, so it'd actually be like a loaner tour versus like they have to manually ship it to you, and then you ship it back to them, and then they have to ship it to someone else. They kind of want to just have it be like a loaner tour on like new items or whatnot.
Yeah, and I think that's nice, but yeah, it does take some barrier to entry, but again, what did he said? Like headphones.com was like what the third largest headphones or audio community, and they do these loaner tours. So it's kind of nice that they, if again, I can't speak to EU, but in NA, if you want to demo a lot of stuff, where there's a will, there's a way. Like Music Tech will are happy to provide you with a loaner sample if you pay that down payment, and a few people have gotten VX, paying that $2,000 down payment on which sounds really risky, right? Onto give me a second. Onto this project. So it takes just a little bit of time and money if you have it. So there's really no need to blind. It depends on what you want to buy. I don't know. I feel like what I'm getting at is there's no need to blind buy stuff in the States. Maybe I don't know. What's your thought on that?
It's still really hard. But yeah, there's ways around it. I mean, being also another way is being if you're active in the community. I know a lot of people who've let people borrow. Like me and you have actually shipped stuff back and forth, and I've never met you in real life. And I've done that.
You mean that? Were you afraid I was gonna steal your Uranus? That
yeah,
shit
yeah.
I can't put your shit back.
But
well, that's expensive. That's still $300 worth of IEM actually.
Yeah, it's not cheap.
Yeah.
For a lot of people, that's a lot of money. So I mean, there's been people who've I've let like actually I just sent my blessing to resolve, and now it's going to max settings.
You used to send me that stuff, and I. Okay, keep going. We'll talk to you about that later.
But I mean, my point is there's people in the community who are very kind and very happy to share their toys with you. As long as you're trusting and whatnot. Obviously, you have to gain the trust of everybody. Obviously, and there's people out there.
I think that's not hard. I trust you. I don't trust USP. Like it's not you that it's that mailman.
Yeah, there's that too.
Yeah,
especially right now. But
and you know what? And again, I have sent you some stuff. I have sent Phil some stuff. And honestly, when I sent Phil my VX, which is like the most expensive thing that's mine, I don't feel bad about it. They somehow rerouted to New York and got it back to me safe, which everything is fine, right? And he loaned me some of his stuff. I feel more nervous sending your Uranus back than I do sending my VX to him.
Yeah.
Do you know?
Yeah.
I'm afraid of losing your stuff.
Yep. No, that's true, because once you it's a mental thing, right? Because once you're like, oh, I'm committing to letting someone borrow this, but I know the risk. But you're in possession of someone else's stuff, and it's your risk that you're risking their stuff, I guess, versus you already know that you're going to be risking your stuff when you're sending something out.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I mean, but I think, I think, yeah, make the right friends that's willing to loan you some stuff. But the other thing is that going into that Blessing 2 story that um I wanted to try to with very bad intent. I feel like that's why you didn't want to give it to me because I hate. I'm just saying, Chi-Fi, Mid-Fi, hybrid.
Uh-huh.
You pick one, not all three. All right. It's literally a disaster waiting to happen. Obviously, somehow that's not true with the B2
Yeah,
because it's gotten really popular lately. Apparently, it's good.
it is good. It just
Probably not,
it's just
but
I wish it was smaller, or at least maybe not necessarily smaller, but I wish
more ergonomic,
more ergonomic. Yeah, there's a
more
couple.
shaped like QDC,
Yeah, it was QDC shaped.
but
It's
just giant.
it's what I wish the Uranus was.
Yeah, unfortunately it isn't. So,
No,
yeah, what can I say? QDZ can't make mid-fies.
yeah. I mean, the Blessing 2
Um,
is like my perfect target curve. Like there's it matches my target curve perfectly. It sounds right. It's a hybrid. It's just the nozzle's a little too wide and it's angled really
hate
funny.
bass. But if you hate bass, why would you want a hybrid? Granted that both of your IEMs that you have right now are multi-BA, right?
Yeah.
So, but
I don't
if you
hate
hate
bass. I don't hate bass. I just don't like I'm not a bass head.
yeah, of course.
Yeah. I also
Um,
like bass.
yeah, I mean, maybe moving on to, I don't know how much you want to talk about, well, your professional life. But you are an engineer.
Yep.
Um, I don't know. Do you want to talk about,
I can if you
like,
want me to.
I mean, you do have your personal blog, right? That you told people what you do, which is like most people don't want to talk to about, their work.
Yeah.
Maybe just a background.
Sure.
Move on next topic.
Yeah. Let's see. I am a materials engineer or materials and process engineer. I've
You
been
have a master's degree in that, right?
Yeah, I have a bachelor's and master's in materials science and engineering, which is when I went to college, I didn't even know what that was, but it's kind of for
I,
people.
I don't know what that is.
Yeah, and for people who never heard of material science, it's kind of like a hybrid of chemical engineering, physics, and mechanical engineering. So you're literally studying how materials behave and
Right.
yeah, stuff like that. So, for example, I work primarily on like carbon fiber materials and adhesives, so glue and plastic.
So a lot of like development, a lot of research, because like a master's degree, a lot of research, a lot of development, and a lot of just engineering in general, right? And you do a lot of the aeronautical stuff.
Yeah,
Um,
I worked in aerospace for I guess 15 years now.
yeah, for a
Yeah,
very long time.
one at a really large, really well known airplane company in Seattle area,
Yeah,
and now I'm working on
yeah. Another
drones.
very large,
A very large
well-known
company that makes drones.
Seattle area. Yeah, which is which is nice, and I think that's what your technical like side come from with you and your measuring rig and all your reviews when it comes to high technical. You do have some kind of engineering background.
Yep.
Um, I and I honestly I think that's the other thing that I like to talk to you about because obviously I have no engineering background. I actually work on the other side. I do more of the finance stuff. But a lot of like the fun topic that I think what grinds your gear at the same time that we do, when people really dismiss the value of R&D.
Yep.
It really triggers you because you work in that field, and I don't like it because I know literally how much those things should cost.
Yeah.
Right. Um. So that's too broad a topic. Why don't you? So obviously, everybody knew this is like probably the second part of this podcast. Um, the new 2020 CFA came out. And just to say, none of the two of us have heard of it. Have heard it.
Nope.
I think last time I've heard that headphones.com sending them to Resolve, and I think you're getting it next, right, or something.
Hopefully,
But
I haven't talked to them about
kind
it.
of
But...
I think with all the fucking COVID riot, whatever shit that's happening in the States right now, we really don't know, right? You'll get it when you get it.
Yep.
But a lot of speculation. So I guess this is our speculation. Well, the graph came out, and the some Korean guy, right? Some Korean compared. I don't know. Maybe can't assume. Some guy made a graph comparison of the 2020 Andromeda and the old Andromeda, the 2020 Solaris and the old Solaris. And Ken Bob made a podcasting on headfights.com. If anybody haven't watched that, go watch that first before you listen to this part. And they explained to it. Okay. Obviously, you had the Solaris. You don't like the Android that much. I don't like it. I'm just like a total CFA hater. Just from what we know, what's your thought on it as an engineer?
Well, I admit I was going to listen to that video, but I never actually got a chance to listen to it.
Nothing in.
Okay. Yeah, I skimmed through it and looked at the graphs and looked at the pictures, but I didn't actually listen to the whole interview.
Did you look at the better graphs that the independent guy posted?
No, I didn't. I didn't know those existed.
Oh, yeah. Ken and I was having a conversation on that, and he showed me the graphs. It looks a lot better. You just gotta scroll all the way up from the podcast text thing.
Does it have that weird kind of upper base dip or whatever it had on the head-fi graphs?
No, but it looks a lot better, as in like it has some kind of peanut gain when it comes to the Andromeda, which is kind of like what most people are complaining about.
Yeah, I saw that part. Yeah.
And for the Solaris, they fixed the 4K dip. Kind of fixed the 4K dip. Okay, here's the Solaris graph I found. Jeez, why do I have to like make here? Look at that. It fixed the dip, which is probably like it looks so good. Like, well, I can't say so good. It looks a lot better, right?
Yeah, it looks better.
Okay, so I hate CFA, but what are the two main complaints of it? Is it's too big. They just made it 20% smaller. The weird dip in the 4.5 4K region. They just fixed that. Boom. Are you going to buy the Solaris again?
Me? I do like the 20% smaller part. I have to listen to it.
Right.
It's likely I probably won't buy it.
Just
from
the graph and the smaller thing. I like what's the how is it warm or is it just like still stone cold? Like how what's the chances of you going back into the CFA camp?
Well, I'm looking at the graph right now. It still looks warm. I mean, relative to like what I normally listen to. It looks better. Yeah, I don't. This huge resonance peak at like 9K looks kind of scary, but I don't know if that's part of the coupler or what.
It's probably well. I mean, he didn't have that peak
both
on the original Solaris, right? So
yeah.
I would assume it isn't. Oh man, that
it
does look a little bit.
that would affect me personally a lot. But yeah, I need to demo it. This is I'm not blind buying it. That's for sure.
Oh, you're not? Why? But I thought you loved blind buying hybrids. I thought that's your thing, just to like
Within a
really
price
blind buy
range.
really, really bad.
Within a price range, yeah.
Nothing's outside your price range. Come on.
Yeah.
But I mean, if it's smaller, you could fit it in deeper, right?
Yeah.
So you could tame that peak a little bit. Depends on how your year goes, right?
Perhaps.
Going back to that little treble extension episode.
Yeah. It wasn't necessarily the size per se that. I mean, I got pretty good fit, like deep insertion with the Solaris. It was more the weight. It just kind of the weird shape. The weight. It was the weight and the angle of the nozzle that affected me, which is kind of funny because it's the same nozzle that's on like the Campfire IO and I think the Andromeda Gold, and those fit like a glove. But the whole shell design, I think, just wasn't working for me.
That nozzle is it's a little bit long, I feel like, on the Solaris. I can get a good fit on it because I have giant ears, but again, I never had the problem with the fit, but I do. Again, this does fix a lot of the problem for me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, two of the most common complaints on the Solaris, so it does look very good. And on the Andro, I don't think I can find the Andro graph, which is pretty much the Andro with a better peanut gain, which is probably Korn's biggest complaint, that he called it hazy. And I'm like, oh, hey, look, it's an Andro with a peanut gain. so again, like, they just did.
It does look like an Andro now that you mention it with a peanut gain.
the old Angel graph. I mean the old Andro graph compared to the new one.
Mm-hmm.
So I think from and tell me if I'm wrong. Again, like, you're not like, in the IEM industry. You're into like aerospace stuff. This is hard to do, right? Like this R&D, like, again, like Solaris have gone through many, well, there's three different versions of Solaris, and like I don't know how many fucking different versions of Andromeda there's out there.
Yeah.
But this is a pretty big step.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is I don't know if this is totally related, but some of the their complaints or criticisms I've heard from people in the community around Campfire specifically, but this really goes towards really anyone, like Apple, for example. Like they release the iPhone, and every year the iPhone looks kind of the same.
Right.
Or same like this year they released the iPhone SE2, which is just an iPhone 8 with some new
with a better
internal
camera.
design. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
With a better chip, better camera.
Yeah, they basically just took their current iPhone and stuck it inside the old iPhone shell. And then the Campfire, they've used the Andromeda shell design on pretty much every single IEM they have. So people are complaining that, hey, every IEM is just an Andromeda, but it's not just how it looks. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on inside that you can't see. That's probably where all the money is.
Right.
Yeah. So like, I know we talked about this a lot, but just for other people, my job, or at least my whole career, I've done R&D from developing a brand new material to figuring out how to implement it into an actual production environment, and also doing repairs on airplanes and whatnot. So I've seen the entire life cycle of how, like, you start from a pen and paper design to actually developing new materials and new manufacturing techniques, and then designing it, putting an actual design out there, and then going out in the field and working with other companies to get their products and whatnot certified with the FAA. So I've seen like the entire process, and it's not cheap.
It's not. It's really not.
The airplane world is like you need like hundreds of millions of dollars, if not $1 billion, to even get going on depending on what level of supply chain you are.
Right.
And then there's all the regulations. In audio, there's obviously not that many regulations as there are in the airplane world. No one's gonna die hopefully, from listening to an IEM, for example. But tooling costs and manufacturing costs don't change. There's still someone's got to make equipment, someone's got to build tooling, someone's got to come up with the engineering, the drawings, to the crossovers.
Right.
I don't know a whole lot about the electronic side because I'm not an electrical engineer, but a lot of people on for example, John Bark and Ken and Torque and those guys, they talk about how changing resistance affects the crossovers and how the drivers are implemented and all that stuff, way beyond my head. All that stuff takes time to develop in hours, and engineering costs are not cheap, especially in the US.
Are you trying to say that these IEMs shouldn't really cost $100 because the parts only cost $100?
Yeah, the parts are $100. That means there's it's free. You just.
I mean, if the parts cost $100, you should charge the customer $100, right? Why shouldn't the Solaris cost maybe, I don't know, just like a good guesstimate, even if they're made out of titanium or whatever, and you love the material, and you should know how much material costs. I mean, just in terms of material, right?
Yeah.
Shouldn't the Solaris just cost maybe $200?
I don't know how much.
The drivers, for drivers.
Maybe
drivers $100. Maybe the material, not even. You don't even count machining. A block of aluminum. There you go. That's 10 cents. Right?
Well, I mean, you can figure out how much Knowles drivers cost on Mouser.com.
Yeah. Online.
And then you probably take some factor of the buying bulk, but they use Belsing, so it's probably a little bit cheaper. But
a little bit cheaper.
But I don't know, making a tooling. For example, I work on if I want to do a plastic molding tool for a small widget,
right.
That could cost $50,000 by itself just for the tool, because it's got to be machined super precisely using some hunk of metal, and that's not cheap, and you gotta pay some company to do that, and then even a electronic technician who's gonna be soldering these things together, that's I don't know how much they make, $25-$30 an hour minimum, but then there's overhead costs, so you got for them to be in a building, and the cost of your workspace. And when I worked at my other companies, it wouldn't be that surprising for a hourly worker to be charged $150 an hour of just over total cost of the person plus all the overhead that goes along with it. And engineer could be $200 an hour. So
yeah, I mean it's pretty normal for a high skilled labor. Just in terms of assembly, they would get paid closer to $25 or $15 to $25 an hour.
Yeah.
Which is that's the lowest bottom end, right?
Yeah.
And then people are again if they're making $25 an hour and you're as an engineer and developer doing R&D, and you do a lot of the R&D thing, and you get frustrated when people complaining about things and because they're spitting on your job. My version is that just because you're some fucking kid getting paid $10 an hour or whatever the fuck the minimum wage is, just because you don't value your time, don't apply your sense of value and time to other people, okay? Because a lot of people, again, how long? You go to school for 6 years? 4 years undergrad and 2 years for the master?
Sort of. I mean, my master's took a long time because I was working at the same time and traveling a lot. So, yeah.
But normally,
roughly 6
for
years.
a master, you go to 6 years of school.
Yeah.
For a good reason. So, obviously, you don't get paid $10 an hour. You get paid a lot more than that. The cost of developing something, I'm not going to say, the engineering at CFA gets paid that much. But the cost of developing something, I don't think a lot of people understand that, that they don't value their time, so they don't value other people's time.
Yeah.
Which is what gets on my nerves.
Yeah,
right?
And then I mean, this is more on your side, but there's engineering and development and equipment costs and all that. But then you have to pay for marketing, distribution, shipping,
distribution, labor, and then
warranty.
the retailer gets a big cut.
Yeah, retailer cut, distributor cut. I mean, you got to pay for all of that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of funny because you're paying like what, $1,500 for the new Solaris. Actually, funny enough, half of it would go into your R&D side of that. $750 goes into that, and I want to say $750 goes into maybe marketing, distribution, and paying the wage for the people. Like, it costs half to develop, and it costs a good chunk of it, like maybe $250, $500 just to assemble. Like, after you get all developed, all that stuff, it still costs money for people to assemble them. Still costs money for people to marketing. Again, like, if you don't want to talk about marketing,
yeah.
There's
definitely markup in every industry. It's not unique to just IEMs.
You can't get away with it, right?
But
like,
yeah, you are
especially.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I'll say
especially when like Solaris up. Damn it, you go. I'm gonna stop talking.
Okay. I mean, what I was trying to say is, when you're paying for a new product, like let's say like the, I don't know, Dunu Luna that just came out,
God.
or like maybe the i4, the Odyssey planer. Like those are relatively new technologies for their use case. So they cost, the i4 cost $2,500 retail when it came out, and I think it still does technically now. And then the Luna is like what, $1,699, and then the final A8000 is like $2,000. There's obviously that's a lot of money for an IEM, but you're also early adopter of this new technology, and the company basically just spent a ton of money investing in their development of a miniature planar driver or a full beryllium driver, which has never been done before on a IEM scale. So, and it's not just a material cost of a beryllium. It's like how they actually use the beryllium to make it sound, the way it sounds. And so there's a ton of cost that goes on to that. But over time, when the company gets the process down, they can start to drive the costs out through, better manufacturing processes or whatnot. So like that's how Odyssey is now able to make the like iSign LX for like $149 or whatever it is now, as opposed to $599 when I think the iSign 10 first came out, because they improved the process and learned how to make it cheaper.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of times you're not really selling that many of these high-end IEMs.
Nope.
That's the problem.
Yeah, it's a niche hobby.
So like, it's a niche hobby, and I again, like, nobody knows what the sales number is on the CFA stuff. Just like, that's why, and I hate talking about diminishing return, and that's not what it is, because to you as a consumer, you really have that stupid phrase stuck in your stupid head. But like for KZ, it takes some pretty much like no development costs and just assembly and parts, and they're selling like, I don't know, like tens of thousands of units, right? So their R&D and their cost is very spread out, as compared to like maybe you selling maybe just a couple thousand Solaris. Mm-hmm. That R&D cost and that cost really is like spread like across very few units.
Yep.
So like the customers are very like end up, for good or bad, paying for a lot of the R&D costs.
Yep.
Right.
And capital equipment and all that stuff. Yep.
Right. And I think what gets me going, and when people use that word, is that you don't know what, like, you really don't understand what, like, why things cost that much. You're just using it to complaining about things being expensive. But going back to Solaris, they're actually designing that new chamber, which is actually a new thing, right? Like a ceramic coated chamber that's like been 3D printed to house all their drivers. Just and still, like, it looks the same. Again, like an Android looks relatively the same. and the Solaris looks smaller but still looks relatively the same. That's still very hard to do. Like just to like, it's same but different. I think, I feel like Kemball didn't really drive that home enough to say like, hey guys, this is well, I guess he did, but like he like usually say, hey guys, this looks the same, but oh my god, like the amount of work that I put into it is really just
Yeah. I mean, I
it,
guess a good example, a good analogy maybe is like in the speaker world, you can have a room, you have a room in your house and you buy a pair of speakers. It doesn't, it's not going to sound exactly like you listen to maybe in a showroom because your house has different, you know, your walls are not the same. You got things that may resonate more than others. You have carpet and furniture and
yeah.
shelves and stuff. And then so people who are in that speaker hobby, they buy all sorts of stuff, foams and dampening materials, or rearrange their house to like make their speakers sound the way they want to. I mean, but the room is the same size. It's not changing. It's still the a square room, whatever. But everything inside of it has been moved around or added to make it, the sound to be the way that the audio file wants it to be. And that's kind of I don't know if that's a good analogy or not, but that's kind of what I imagine is going on inside an IEM that from the outside looks the same, but the inside is completely different.
Oh yeah, I mean, it comes with different technology, right? And they came with that. The new Solaris have that new chamber in it, and again, maybe different drivers, maybe the same. I don't know. Like, uh, uh, good friend Fix said that he speculated there's different driver. Again, I feel like you kind of need a different driver to fix that weird 4K dip. But regardless of that, it's still like it looks the same. So people complain is like, oh, it's just the same thing over and over again.
Yep.
But in reality, it's a very good step in the right direction.
Yeah.
Again, we'll probably have the podcast on the CFA stuff with the Singapore boys after everybody have heard it, which is still probably not a positive one, but for now, this is a very good look for the CFA stuff. I don't know what else you want to say about that. Um,
No, I'm excited to try them out, especially the Solaris, since it may actually fit me better. But
yeah,
we'll
maybe,
see.
maybe we'll see the. I'll just say it right now. If you actually buy it again, I will not stop giving you shit about it. So
Yeah,
that's something that you have to take into consideration.
yeah. I mean, I'm still
Uh,
looking for my end game hybrid. So, Blessing
oh
Two
my
was about the
god.
closest thing to it, but it just
Uh,
didn't fit. I think hybrids are just not
yeah.
going to work with me, to be honest.
Oh, I mean, I think you just gotta take a trip with me to Japan and try the Sony Jessie, the best hybrid in the world.
All right.
Sponsored by Sony. All right. Anything else you want to say? I think this has been going on for a little while. I don't know.
Uh,
Just
no, not really.
no, not really.
No,
All right.
I don't
I
think
guess
so.
we'll cut it here.
All right. Bye.
All right. Thanks for listening. I guess. Bye.